Seattle's first homicide of 2026 is a case that actually began more than half a century ago. In 1973, a 19-year-old man was shot near Garfield High School, a tragedy that left him paralyzed for the rest of his life.
The medical examiner has now officially ruled his recent passing a homicide, a rare delayed death directly linked to those decades-old injuries. And while prosecutors say the case is legally closed because the suspects are dead, it raises the question of what happens to cases that don't end with an arrest.
Fox 13's Alejandro Guzman sat down with homicide detective Rolf Norton, a man who has dedicated his career to hunting for answers and solving the city's cold cases.
Detective Rolf Norton refuses to call them cold cases. He made it very clear that they're not forgotten, sitting on the shelf collecting dust. He keeps them close. In fact, prosecutors credit the homicide detective for flagging and reviewing not just Seattle's first homicide, but many of the cases people assume are over. For Detective Norton, they're not over, just unfinished. Detective Rolf Norton has been with Seattle Police for 31 years. He spent the last 24 in homicide.
I mean, there is no greater mission. Working homicides is what I wanted to do when I first got hired.
Waking up every day is easy. The challenge, fulfillment, significance, and importance is why he doesn't hesitate when he talks about murder investigations.
There's no other crime that comes to the level of homicide. It's the fifth commandment. The foundation of society begins and ends with we won't kill each other. And to be tasked with investigating those crimes is really a great honor.
The Seattle native was hired by Seattle Police in 1994 when the city only had about 500,000 people. A lot's changed, including policing. There was no body cameras back then, no ring cameras, and certainly no security footage on every block. Today,
if the Green River Killer had been active in 2026 instead of 1983, we would have had him after number 1 or number 2, because we would have had him on camera.
Norton says DNA has also evolved dramatically over the last 2 decades, from limited testing in the late 90s to breakthroughs with genetic genealogy, helping identify suspects decades later.
Because in the past, it's been more about, we have this result, what can we do with it? How can we interpret it? How can we make it better? Now it's, we can go back to the start and start from scratch. It's crazy. And I'm excited with the optimism that all this brings.
But even with all of these new tools, not every case has an ending.
I'm on a one-person mission to change the vernacular. I can't stand the word cold case. And I don't call them cold cases because I'm working them.
He says they're not binders that have sat untouched for decades, collecting dust at the bottom of a vault.
There's been some cases where I've printed out the original follow-up that the initial detectives produced and have left them in every sleeping area in my house. And I would sometimes just pick it up and start reading, saying, what did I miss?
Tanya Frazier is one of the cases he's carried for a decade.
She was down this ravine about 50 feet or so.
Norton says the 14-year-old was kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and murdered in 1994. An arrest was finally made last year, more than 30 years later.
I'm pleased we got to where we are today, that we have made an arrest, but the process isn't done.
Another case is Baby Boy Doe, who was found dead in November of 1997 in a North Seattle gas station trash can after the mother delivered him and left him to die. Despite police sharing images of the mother walking towards the restroom, the case remained unsolved for years.
When it comes to the photos, Baby Doe, garbage can, and it's mind-blowing. I mean, frankly, it's life-changing, and you see something that you immediately want to file away and never go back to, but you can't because you have a job and a mission, and no one's looking out for Baby Doe except for us.
That was Detective Norton talking about the crime scene photos for the very first time. The mother, Christine Warren, was convicted in January of 2023, but for years, many believed the case would never be solved.
It's important to know that this child wasn't forgotten.
Casey McNersney with the King County Prosecutor's Office says the same goes for Joseph Garrett's case, even though it can't be prosecuted. Garrett was only 19 when, according to a brief 3-paragraph article from the Seattle Post Intelligencer in 1973, he was shot in the shoulder during a fight with another teen near Garfield High School. The bullet lodged in his spine, paralyzing him. Norton says being the face of that pain isn't easy.
You're the face of the worst thing that ever happened to them and their family members, and you don't always have good news.
How do you move forward each and every single case, knowing that at the end of the day, they're unsolved to many of these families?
I think you need to focus on the process and not the result. And you need to be cognizant of what you can address today. It's tough. These cases are unsolved not because of a lack of effort, they're unsolved because they're difficult.
When I asked the detective what he would say to families still waiting for answers, he didn't pause.
I remember, we remember, I won't quit, we won't quit.
Detective Norton has reviewed more than 600 unsolved cases going back to 1907 and up to 2020. During our interview, I do want to note this. He handed me a list of 13 names. These are cases that he was the lead detective on, and he continues to update families. And while he doesn't promise resolutions, he wants families to know that their loved ones are never far from his reach. In the studio, I'm Alejandra Guzman.